Patient? We are students. Yes. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Abington Heights School District Board Work Session for February 2nd, 2022. Please stand and pledge the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wondering who we were competing with there. I didn't realize it was me. First time I've ever been my own competition. Can we please have a roll call?
Mr. Abdallah. Mr. Azar.
Here.
Mr. Fleming.
Here.
Mrs. Henderson.
Here.
Mrs. Karam.
Here.
Mr. Medensky.
Here.
Mr. Robeson. Mrs. Tierney. Here. Mr. Acker.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, can we please approve the agenda as outlined?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, or roll call, excuse me?
Mr. Azar.
Yes.
Mr. Fleming.
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson.
Yes.
Mrs. Karam.
Yes.
Mr. Medensky.
Yes.
Mr. Robeson. Mrs. Tierney. Yes. Mr. Abdallah.
Yes.
Mr. Acker.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can we please approve the minutes, which would be the meeting of January 19th? Thank you very much, Mrs. Tierney. We hear a motion?
So moved.
Second. On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Fleming.
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson.
Yes.
Mrs. Karam.
Yes.
Mr. Medensky.
Yes.
Mr. Robeson. Mrs. Tierney. Yes. Mr. Abdallah.
Yes.
Mr. Azar.
Yes.
Mr. Acker.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item of business is Superintendent's Report. Dr. Schaefer, the floor is yours.
It is my pleasure to start this work session with a student presentation. So without any further ado, I'm going to welcome the Abington Heights High School Marching Band to perform for us tonight.
Frozen.
Thank everybody. Most of all, students for coming out and performing tonight. Tonight we'll talk about academic data, the confidence, we're talking about how well. Or, besides all that hard work, you stay after school, you practice day and night in the summer. And so, kudos to you, you did such a great job.
Dr. Schaefer, thank you for organizing that. It's a great way to start the meeting, and it puts us all in a great frame of mind. Do what we have to do next. So the next order of business will be public comment. And I think what I'm going to do is turn it over to Mr. Mirabelli to bring the people in and set them up and let them say their piece. And again, we're going to ask people to try to limit their comments to 3 minutes, and please begin each set of comments with your name and where you live.
Okay, anyone who raises their hand will be called upon to speak. Raise your hand virtually by using the little hand icon. Anthony Turco should be joining us. Anthony,
Yeah, I'm here. Good evening.
hello,
Can you hear me okay?
we can.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I wanted to start by talking about the masks and my issues with the masks. So first of all, the major issue for me with the mask is from the beginning, from September, when we first, decided on universal masking, there was never any type of set protocol for the construction of the mask, be it the material or how it would fit to the person's face. I'd say, and I'm only guessing, but I'm guessing that 95% of the masks worn each day by the administration and the school students are not of medical grade. Most are probably manufactured from other countries and don't really offer any valid protection at all. See, if you really wanted to protect people with a mask, I would think there would be strict guidelines on what kind of mask should be worn and what the mask should be made of material-wise. Just like when our junior comets go out onto the football field to destroy, say, Old Forge, we wouldn't leave it up to the families to pick and choose the type of pads or the helmet the kids wear. These are strict guidelines in place for pads and helmets to be the best they can be to help protect our children. The kids remove these masks, obviously, during lunchtime. So why wouldn't we consider lunchtime to be a super spreader event? Think about it. There's hundreds of students in our district alone eating lunch every single day of the week with no masks, sitting pretty close to one another, talking and socially interacting as children should. Then we get on the topic of sports. I'm pretty sure most of the current school sports and community sports are all participating without masks on. And I mean the children, not the spectators. I coach wrestling and I now coach basketball, and none of our active participants are required to wear masks. Then on top of that, you have children at home going shopping, to birthday parties, sleepovers, or whatever, and most are not required to wear masks by their parents. The control factor is already ruined in this experiment. Now, recently, I know you guys have implemented the children can go mask optional if the infection rate is at 7.99% or lower within Lackawanna County. Now, say that takes place. That means the kids can go 1 week without masks, and then that number we don't see the new number of that until 1 week later. So they can go without masks for that whole week, and the number could be on the rise, and we wouldn't find out until a week after that. That just makes zero sense to me. I don't agree with that. I think it's time for our children to be let go of this total mask standard. Our whole community is pretty much free to go wherever they want without a mask. Obviously, there's certain places, medical facilities and stuff like that. But I don't understand why we're holding our children to this mask standard every day during school. It's not fair. It's not doing anything. Everybody that I know of locally got COVID over the holidays. I'm sure you guys know a lot of people that got it over the holidays too. This isn't going to end. This isn't a pandemic. This is an endemic. It's going to continue. This virus will be with us. I have one other thing I want to touch base on is the rapid testing that you guys are doing. I was curious if I imagine you guys would have to have an MSDS sheets, the material safety data sheets for the test to see what the tests are made up of and everything like that. And also I was curious on once the parent signs over, I guess, the right for the child to be tested within the school, who makes the decision that the child is going to be tested? Is a 7-year-old minor making that decision? Or can a teacher make that decision? Maybe they saw the child cough or something like that, and they decide, hey, we got to test this person. I feel like a lot of this is coming down to money. I know you guys received a lot through the ESSER fund for the COVID relief, probably near about $4 million. And I'm just totally confused. Nothing here really adds up. I'm not talking about science or political or anything like that. If you're really trying to make things work, there would be strict guidelines for what kind of mask you'd have to wear, how you got to wear it, what material it's made of.
Mark,
Okay. All right. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
thank you. Eva Scandell. Eva Scandell, if you'll unmute, you'll be heard.
Good evening. I'm Ava Scandell, a student in the Abington Heights School District in 5th grade. And I wear a mask every day at school, but when I get home, I take it off, hang out with friends, going to the supermarket, and being with, like, going to sleepovers. I don't wear a mask, and it really doesn't make sense to me is that we have to wear them in school, but not any other places. So if you guys could, and it hurts with mental health as well, and you get migraines. I know this because I have friends that tell me this as well. Now, if you guys could just make the mask optional, it would really sincerely help. And that's all I would like to say. And if you guys could just drop them, that would be great. Thank you.
P. Pooley,
Repeat that, please.
P. Pooley, so here we are. If you'll unmute, you'll be heard. Okay, I guess we'll move on to the next one. Spear, if you'll unmute, you'll be heard.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Jeremy Spear, Clark Summit. Nice performance by the band, although I'm a little discouraged that they're able to attend, but taxpayers can't. Last meeting, you guys said that you were wearing masks, despite most of you being alone in your offices, because you wanted to virtue signal to our students that you were willing to subject yourselves to the same thing that you're asking them to do, minus several hours, of course. I was hoping the new board would send a positive message to our kids, but the needless return to the virtual board meetings, in my opinion, is a giant step in the wrong direction. I think it would be better if you signal to our children that safe and responsible in-person interaction occurs everywhere else except in schools, where unfortunately folks like you have exaggerated the danger and perpetuate this emergency and this fear. As the previous student alluded to, everywhere else normal life occurs except when they go to school, and that's very sad. And it's very sad to see you guys continue to act as COVID health managers for our community when clearly you failed at it. The only thing that you've succeeded at, in my opinion, is exacerbating the whole situation, perpetuating the fear, and making everybody's life difficult. There's no reason for our children to be wearing masks, and the science says that. It's time to take them off our children and time to quit sitting there virtue signaling that we have a mask on too. So, for an hour or two, whatever it is, that's why you should wear it for 8. That's ridiculous. Please take the mask off our kids. Thank you.
Okay, we'll try Hooli one more time. It gives us all the speakers.
All of our speakers, all right. Thank you very much. Mr. Fleming, any questions we should follow up on?
The only actual question that was asked was by the first speaker, Anthony. He asked about the rapid testing, whether there are MSDS sheets of the actual tests being used, and who makes the decision for testing, whether it's kids, parents, teachers, etc.
Sure, we do have the specifics and details on every test that is provided. We can post that on our website. As far as the protocol, we have sent out a remind and posted notice about the rapid testing, which is an option for parents. It is not required. We are not quarantining whether vaccinated or unvaccinated asymptomatic close contacts. This is an option and choice for our parents who would like to have their son or daughter tested, who may not otherwise have the opportunity to get a rapid test in a timely manner. At this point, we've had approximately 4% of our student population sign up. The only way that a student can participate is if their parents fill out the permission slip and submit that to us.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to the action discussion items. Dr. Schaefer.
Thank you very much. Today and for the next several months, we'll mark a pivot to our work and focusing on our academic vision and mission as a district and reporting to the community and the board some of the data that we have available. Certainly, this is a very important data presentation today. However, I want to preface today's presentation by saying we're going to be looking at some recently acquired PSSA and Keystone results. And those are performance data, and they don't tell us the whole story. They give us a little snippet of a picture. And it's important to note that throughout the year, we're also going to be taking a look at some other data. You know, how our students feel about being in school, some climate data, looking at our attendance data, taking a look at extracurricular participation. Today was a good example, having students perform. That tells us a lot about how students feel about their community and their school when they participate. And so when we see high levels of participation, we know that usually that follows a high sense of belonging. Today, we'll be looking at our English language arts data, which will be followed in March by our math data, April science and social studies, and in May, some of our climate and post-secondary level. This will be used to provide our community and students, teachers, and board members with a more holistic picture of where our students are, particularly coming out of the last 18 months of a change in environment from a completely virtual environment to a hybrid environment to an in-person environment. We acknowledge that these changes as a result of the pandemic changed the pathway of our students. And in fact, I would say that they changed access to education that they had previously. And this was an adjustment. And it is our job to see how this adjustment impacted our students and develop policies and procedures to move forward to mitigate some of the impacts. And that's the board's focus as we move forward to developing a budget. So some of the data that you're going to see today and is available on the website through and under the board section, this presentation is posted, will be the PSSA reading data, which is in grades 3 through 8, the Keystone literature data, which is mostly our 9th grade students, AP scores, and SAT scores. I will be briefly going over this. I've posted it so that you'll have an opportunity as a community to print it out, take a look at it, ask me whatever questions that you may have, as well as Dr. Vitale here. So I will not be going over this at length. I'm now on the slide where we start with 3rd and 4th grade PSSA data. It's a important reminder here that the 2021 data reflects tests that students took in the beginning of this year. Last year, we had the opportunity to either take the PSSA in the spring or push it to the fall. Abington Heights chose to push it to the fall. So our 3rd graders took this test at the beginning of 4th grade. So that's an important caveat I wanted to let our parents know about. What you'll see in the 3rd and 4th grade slide here is it highlighted in green is the last 4 years of data of students who are proficient and advanced. So you can see the change in scores from 2017 to 18, 19 to 21. And what we've chose to highlight here is the difference. In that what you've seen on this slide is a decrease by 9.6% in 3rd grade and a decrease in 4th grade by 14%. We're here today to just present this, objectively present it as our administrators, our central office, and our teachers take a look at that and ask questions. What are they seeing in the data? What are they thinking about it? What are they wondering? Meaning, what types of interventions can we put in place to help stem this and to close the gap? Are there students that need additional help and services in order to get up to grade level standards? Simultaneously, many students will be proficient. However, they may have been advanced. So we're not only talking about students that are below proficiency, but what are we doing to accelerate learning for students who otherwise would have been advanced? A loss in learning happens at all levels. And that is why we are presenting this data at all levels. The next slides, 5 through 8, I will not go through because I framed the last slide, but you can take a look and again, see the differences, see where some of those losses are. And we'll be focusing in on those areas to see if there are any places that we specifically need to target. So for example, is there a certain grade level that experienced a bigger drop as compared to others? Why might that have been? What might we need to do to help those students? If there are grade levels that did not lose as much, what type of support, what type of experience did they have? What can we learn from that? The next slide is the literature Keystone data. And this is what I would consider a end of year test for high school students. And I say that because it's an end of the year and most likely it's their first year of high school. And it is the only literature test that they take. And it is required for graduation, depending on what pathway it is. But a majority of Abington Heights High School students will take that test and be successful. What you can see here is there is a difference in 2%. So we'll be working with the high school team to talk about that. The next slide is admittedly busy for everybody taking a look out there. This is a look at our English AP scores and participation in dual enrollment. And I've deliberately put all of these together for our community and teachers so you can get a better picture. What you'll notice is that in some cases our passing scores for English have dropped a little bit. And it's important to note that in one of the tables, we take a look at student enrollment and students taking the test. In large part, since 2016-17, we've had a lot of students, approximately 40% of our students taking an AP test. So we haven't seen a lot of dip there. Where we have seen the dip is in the percentage of students who have completed an AP course, but have decided not to take the test. And one of the reasons is, as you could see in the table on the far right, is we are now offering equally rigorous opportunities in dual enrollment for our students. And we're seeing a lot of students, an increasing number of students taking advantage of that. I mention that because there's some portability, more portability in my mind, with the dual enrollment courses and where they may transfer to post-secondary institutions. And our students and families recognize that, understand that, learn that in their conversations with our high school counseling team. So this provides a more holistic picture of what we're offering at the high school. I told the board that AP used to be the only game in town, and we have recognized and provided more opportunities outside the AP level for our students. And to our students and teachers' credit, our students and families understand the value of our AP courses, and they continue to take those courses, understanding that that rigorous course of study will pay dividends in the future in their post-secondary education. The next slide depicts our SAT scores for 2017 through 19, and then our SAT 2021, 22 scores that exceeded benchmark. So as you can see, our reading and writing scores are above the state average. We will be posting our 2021 scores there soon. We just don't have those ready yet. However, what we did put down for you is the percentage of students, which is almost 9 out of 10 students exceeding the benchmark. So I have no reason to believe that we weren't underneath the state average at all. We continue to excel at that level, and that can be seen in the literature keystones. And then the last slide here talks about some of the investments that the board has made. That started with the balanced literacy program. And to me, that may just be a fancy term for how do we teach young kids to read? You know, what supports do we provide them? And we've purchased some phonemic awareness programs. We've provided resources for our teachers to use, in particular wit and wisdom, resources that provide a more focus on writing, a more rigorous pedagogical approach. And what I mean by that is our students are doing more of the talking at the younger grade levels. Students are doing more of the thinking at lower grade levels. Students are working more independently with less prompting and support at the lower grade levels. And we are pushing our students at the lower grade levels. And that's absolutely fantastic. We should always look at raising the expectations. With that said, we have a parallel curriculum writing project with Dr. Pryl, and that kind of mirrors the investment in wit and wisdom. We've had really focused professional development as well. So if you're going to focus on English language arts, we should also focus on developing our teachers. So in the few professional development days we have, we want to make sure that we target them in the areas where we've invested the funds and the resources for our students. In addition, and finally, we've increased staffing. And most of this increases in staffing came through the stimulus funds. We purchased 2 reading specialists, 2 enrichment interventions teachers, and a high school English teacher. And I have said to the board that many people will tell you you should not purchase personnel with stimulus funds because it'll go away. And what I would say is that the data shows that the decision to purchase these strategic staff was the right one. We've noticed that there has been some loss in the last year, which we expected. Over the last 2 years, our students have not been in front of their teachers due to virtual and hybrid. And we recognize that we would need more supports for our students. I mentioned the investments into teaching students how to read. A lot of that has to do with that in-person FaceTime. Reading to a student, emphasizing words, looking at pictures, trying to figure out what's going to happen on the next page. These are all great ways to learn how to read, and they need to be in front of us. And that's why we have chosen these interventions, and we'll be reporting out on that later on. That concludes my presentation.
Any questions on the part of the board?
Mr. Acker, this is Phil. I have a question. So Superintendent Schaefer, thank you very much for presenting the numbers. I just wanted to just mention that, you know, these are descriptive statistics. They pretty much confirm what we thought might be the case for the latest year of metrics. I would just hesitate to jump into any conclusions around correlation or causation of you know, where there's slippage. Although I do think the descriptive statistics, you know, looking at the change percentage is valuable in figuring out where to double click into areas that we may want to dive deeper into. So, you know, thank you for presenting the numbers. I just would caution people to jump to conclusions as to why those things are, but it's a good indication of where to look first.
Great, thank you very much. Yes, right, Mr. Mordensky.
Sorry about that. You talked about data shows that the increase in staff was effective. Besides the, you know, examples you gave, is there any concrete data to show that? You know, I guess, what is the basis of that statement?
Sure, great question. We are going to have some more specific data, which I'll tell you about in 1 second. However, what I meant by that was we have more students that are below grade level based on, as Phil said, a descriptive statistic. We took a diagnostic and the students were below a certain point. Having additional reading specialists meant that we could see more students. So choosing to hire 2 reading specialists who are now working with students full time, we knew that the demand would be higher as compared to other years. So they have met that demand. Now, to answer your question more fully, I've asked Dr. Natali to come back and say, okay, the reading specialist did a diagnostic with the kids before they started, meaning what's their reading level? Are they having trouble processing? Are they having trouble comprehending? And then the reading specialists work with the students over time, and let's say it's 6 weeks. They assess them again, and they can report back the growth. And that's the data that's going to let us know that this intervention is working, and it's working at the rate that we anticipated or not.
Thank you. I just wanted to get clarification on how you were going to assess it, but that is great analysis. Thank you.
Mr. Azar.
Yeah, quick question, Dr. Schaefer. So we'll, just to confirm, we'll be back on a normal cycle this year for testing this spring?
Yes.
Anyone else? Okay, now let's move on to the action and discussion items. Dr. Schaefer, I apologize for jumping ahead of you there.
No problem. Mr. Acker, I would ask the board to consider approving the personnel report, including A1, 2, and 3. That would be approval of a resignation, appointments, and certificated and non-certificated staff.
So
Okay.
moved.
Second.
On the motion,
I don't have a motion. I just want to make a comment. I see a resignation of Liz Shivak. I just want to say that Liz did a fabulous job here. She will be missed. Thank you for all of your services here, if she's listening. And just a shout out to her. So thanks, Liz, for your time.
any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Henderson? Yes. Mrs. Karam? Yes. Mr. Medensky?
Yes.
Mr. Robeson?
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney? Yes. Mr. Abdallah?
Yes.
Mr. Azar?
Yes.
Mr. Fleming? Mr. Acker?
Yes,
Motion passes 9-0.
thank you.
Mr. Acker, I'd like to ask the board to consider letter B in approving a motion to approve the 2022-23 NEIU 19 budget as contained in item number 1.
Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion? Bring down, roll call, please.
Mrs. Karam? Yes. Mr. Medensky?
Yes.
Mr. Robeson?
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney? Yes. Mr. Abdallah?
Yes.
Mr. Azar?
Yes.
Mr. Fleming?
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson?
Yes.
Mr. Acker?
Yes,
Motion carries 9-0.
Okay. Mr. Acker, I'd ask the board to consider a motion to authorize the administration to seek proposals for the following technology infrastructure projects: a district data center, a core routing switch that would be via the federal E-rate mini bid, and a licensed microwave links, also via the federal E-rate RFP.
So moved.
here a second.
Second.
Thank you. On the motion?
Mr. Acker, this is Mr. Robeson. Just a quick comment. The technology committee did meet for the first time. And I just want to welcome Mr. Medensky, Mrs. Karam, Mr. Abdallah, and myself to talk about some of the technology challenges that we have. And I think this motion is a result of what we met and talked about. So I'm glad to see that we started meeting on a regular basis and we're moving forward, taking action on the areas that we need pretty desperately. So thank you.
Thank you. Any comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Medensky?
Yes.
Mr. Robeson?
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney? Yes. Mr. Abdallah?
Yes.
Mr. Azar?
Yes.
Mr. Fleming?
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Karam? Yes. Mr. Acker?
Yes,
Motion carries 9-0.
okay. Finally, we have some informational meetings for use of the school facilities listed. Is there any new business? Old business? I'd like to call for adjournment.
So moved. Second.
Second.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We're going to have an executive session meeting after this meeting, so please stick around.